hormone conditions to feel better using natural remedies. I also teach weight loss workshops along with the Dairy and YMCA. And as you can imagine, I've been attending a lot of different webinars and reading lots of papers about COVID-19 and how getting the right nutrients can play a role in keeping people healthy, specifically for this virus. I'm focusing on a few key nutrients to boost your immune system today and the food sources of them. I think, I could tell you some things that are non-food sources or kind of off the wall sources, but given our access to food today, I think it's more important to tell you about foods that you can access easily. So the first thing I wanted to address are different things that reduce your immunity. Just get those out of the way. So this is kind of obvious, but alcohol and also other toxins, pesticides, things in water, Katie will talk a little bit about that. They actually interfere with your liver's ability to filter through things like viruses and bacteria. So if you're drinking all the time, then unfortunately it might not get to the viruses and bacteria that you want to fight off. Lack of sleep is another thing that can decrease your immunity. You should really aim to get 8 hours of good quality sleep. I know it's hard right now, but that's just one thing that's important. Try and make your room dark. I know that you've seen a lot of different tips around that. And then what's really important too are to minimize the sugar and processed carbohydrates. And processed carbohydrates, by that I mean things with white flour, so bread and pasta, and then of course the cookies, the candy, the cake, all of that stuff. That's the sugar-rich things, because honestly, even just a teaspoon of sugar can suppress your immune system. So if you can avoid all of that, and in fact also a lot of the people that are in the hospital with COVID-19 are suffering from blood sugar issues, diabetes and other things. So anyway, it really compromises your immunity. So if you can minimize those now, at least that will help. I'm going to move on now to the key immune boosters. And so I'm focusing on vitamin D, A, C, and zinc. And 40% of Americans are deficient in vitamin A, C, and zinc. So that's just something, part of the reason why I'm focusing on those. And vitamin D is a common deficiency as well. So here's some foods that are high in vitamin A. Vitamin A is a powerful antioxidant. Most people don't really think about it, consider immunity, but it's important. It's involved in how cells respond to viruses and bacteria. What's important to note is it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you need to eat fat of some description while you're eating these things. Otherwise, you're not going to get the vitamin A out of them. So yellow foods are kind of the key thing to think about. Squashes, which are actually great because you can keep them on your counter for a long time, so you don't have to take a broom in your fridge. Sweet potatoes, mangoes, carrots, bell peppers, and then actually there's some dark leafy greens like spinach and broccoli that are also high in vitamin A. So those are just some things to think. And then vitamin D is another vitamin I wanted to talk about. That's not as easy to get from foods. It is in foods, but the best way to get vitamin D is to be outside in the sun. Our body can actually make it from sunlight. So 15 minutes every day if you're outside, but you can't be wearing sunscreen. Otherwise, you won't be able to get in the right sunlight to make that vitamin D. So, and actually there was a recent article in the Irish Examiner speaking about the importance of vitamin D with COVID-19. And it actually addressed the fact that in the Northeast of the United States, because we aren't out in the sun for, except from maybe May or April until October, should really take a supplement in vitamin D. And so vitamin D is something actually you can't really over supplement, but ideally maybe you can take 1,000 IU up to 5 IU. So if you can get a hold of it, but otherwise try and get out in the sun is the best way to get the vitamin D. And also eat some dairy products, eat some fish, eat some eggs. Vitamin D is also a fat soluble vitamin, but you'll notice that most of the foods, except for these peas here, actually have fat in them, but getting higher fat dairy will help you access the vitamin D in that dairy. So this one is probably a lot more common in when you think about immunity is vitamin C. And actually what's interesting is there's some COVID-19 patients that were receiving it intravenously in China, and it really helped them improve their symptoms and overcome the virus. So make sure you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables like kiwis and strawberries. Even cauliflower has vitamin C, red bell peppers, mango, dark leafy greens, and citrus fruit. You can probably tell that by now you're seeing that you really should be trying to eat the rainbow of vegetables, trying to eat as many colors as possible to get all these different vitamins. And then finally, foods high in zinc. Zinc is a really important mineral. It's essential for immune function. And actually what's kind of interesting is vitamin A can't be activated in your body without zinc. So if you're, one thing, if your immunity is compromised, not having enough zinc can actually cause a loss of taste and smell, which is kind of interesting. I read recently, and that obviously could contribute to why people who get COVID-19 lose their sense of taste and smell. It's not everyone, but some people, and most likely it's those people that are low in zinc. High sources tend to be from animal products, so seafood, poultry, beef, dairy, and then also there are some beans that also and nuts that have zinc in them. Actually, one of the highest sources of zinc is the highest source of zinc is oysters. And so if you can get access to some oysters, that's like a great way to get your zinc. Another way to get your zinc too is from pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, but especially pumpkin seeds are really high in zinc. So just one other thing to give you a recipe that might be something that has all of these different vitamins, and that is if you take a bell pepper, cut it in half and put an egg in there and cook it on 425 for about 15 minutes, it has all of the nutrients that I was speaking of in it. So that's just something to consider, an extra credit if you have some pumpkin seeds on the side. I also have a bunch of other immune boosting recipes on my website, which is janestreetwellness.com. And so if you sign up for my newsletter, you can get access to that recipe book for immune boosting recipes. So now I'm going to hand this over to Katy Kinsella, and she's going to talk more about other things that boost your immunity.
Hi guys. Thanks, Amy. So I'm going to tell you guys just a little bit about probiotics, and I have talked to many of you about this in the past, I'm sure. It's really interesting because a lot of people don't realize that 70% of your immunity actually resides in your gut. So it's actually really, really important to have a healthy gut. And one of those ways to do that is by consuming probiotics. So I actually sell an ingredient called Canaan BC30. You can see the logo right there. And we sell to food and beverage companies. So we encourage companies to add probiotics to their products like granola, all sorts of different items. I have on the next page a lot of different products so you can find this ingredient. But here's just kind of like, I'm going to do like a probiotics 101. So if you have any questions, just let me know. But the World Health Organization definition of a probiotic is that it is a microbe that when it administered in an efficacious dose has a health benefit to the host. So what ends up being kind of curious is there are a bunch of different kinds of bacteria. You have vegetative cells and you have spore formers for probiotics. Canaan BC30, which is the ingredient that we sell, is a spore former. If you think of like yogurt, I think that's probably what everyone kind of always thinks about probiotics is they get probiotics in their yogurt. So most yogurt actually, in order to make yogurt, you have to ferment milk into yogurt, right? And you need starter cultures in order to do that. And those starter cultures are what they refer to as vegetative cells. So you have this bacteria that is constantly germinating and constantly dying. And so by the time you actually end up eating it, you might not actually be eating an efficacious dose of probiotic that would give you a health benefit. So you may actually, most likely in many yogurts, you're not actually getting a probiotic. So our ingredient is different in that we're a spore former, and we have this natural casing around our spore that allows us to remain dormant until it actually gets to your gut, and then it germinates in the gut. But a couple of things, like when you guys are shopping for probiotics or looking at, buying capsules or anything like that, oftentimes it'll just say like a genus and a species. So I just kind of encourage everybody to always look for an actual strain name. So there should be some numbers and letters on the tail end of any bacteria that you're going to buy. So if you're looking at a Lactobacillus acidophilus, for instance, it should say, LGG1 after it. Our particular strain, Canaan BC30, on the label, it says Bacillus coagulans GBI 306086, which doesn't sound very good, but we have a website, and we always encourage, we really require that everybody who uses our product puts that on their packaging, because then it allows consumers to actually be able to look it up and find the science and so on and so forth. So, and every strain is different. So a lot of people always ask me, they're like, I've seen, 85 billion CFU on something, or, 500 million is more better. And again, it kind of goes back to the science that is on that strain that proves what is efficacious for that particular bacteria. So for one bacteria, like Lactobacillus acidophilus LGG1, for instance, it might be 85 billion CFU is efficacious, but for us, for instance, for Canaan BC30, it's 500 million. So again, it's just really important to kind of look at the particular strain name and look at that. So on the next slide, there's just a bunch of different products that we're in. So our whole mission is that we want to get into products that people consume on a regular basis, because when you don't, probiotics are transient, so they, get into your system, they do their tricks, and then they leave your system. So it's probably in your body. For instance, BC30 is probably in your body for about 4 days. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to start germinating in your gut. And so we really encourage companies who have, breakfast products or snacking items to, that those are kind of the best things to put a probiotic in, because they tend to be habitual. So people will continue to eat them, day after day after day. And again, we always say that probiotics work, but you have to take them every day or a couple times a week, so that it's actually continuing to pollinate your system. And then, so I have a picture of it there too, but like Bigelow Lemon Ginger, this is actually their #1 selling tea that they have. And you can see our logo is on the packaging here. Ginger, have you been drinking your lemon ginger tea? I don't know, is Ginger on still? Anyway, I gave Ginger a bottle, a box of it. So hopefully she's enjoying it. But these are all products that you can find at the grocery store that have our probiotic in it. Oh, good, thanks. And so eat away. Are there any questions on probiotics?
Yeah, so Katie and Amy, there was a bunch of questions here. I can just go through them, and then people can add in. Actually, I put in, I don't know, I was reading somewhere that you can lose the sense of smell from too much vitamin C. Have you heard that?
I've never heard that. I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I had, and I don't know if it's vitamin C and D, but they were talking about, but it's interesting about zinc. Nydia asks, what kind of beans have the highest level of zinc?
So chickpeas and lentils are high in zinc. It's about 12% of your daily amount recommended, which is, actually the minimum you need for you to be alive. So it's not that much. And I think the thing about vegetable sources is they tend to be harder to absorb because there's something called phytates in them that the plant makes so that they protect themselves. So it is better to get zinc from, if you can, from animal sources.
And then Leslie said, both pumpkin seeds and oysters are very high in iron. Is there a link with zinc and iron? Because she has so much iron.
What's funny is they compete with each other to be absorbed but in your small intestine. So actually, like they're kind of opposites, so that too much iron can mean you're often low in zinc, and then vice versa, too much zinc can mean you're low in iron. So it's interesting. Leslie might be low in iron, low in zinc because she's high in iron.
It's a genetic thing.
Is it chromatosis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not toxic, but I'm careful about what I eat consequently.
Yeah.
So but if I get more zinc, then maybe it'll reduce the amount of iron I'm absorbing, which would be a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and then Nydia asked, are there any vegan sources of probiotics?
Yeah, there's a lot, but ours is Canadian BC30. It's vegan. It's kosher, halal, gluten-free, vegan.
What is it again?
Huh?
What did you say it was again?
It's vegan and it's gluten-free. It's halal, kosher, allergen-free. That's for Canadian BC30.
Okay. And then Pamela said, I use an antiviral probiotic called P3OM. Are you familiar with it? Just wanted to make sure it was legit.
I am not familiar with that particular one. But there's a lot of legit probiotics out there. So I would just encourage finding what the strain is. So just look at the back of the packaging and then look up that particular strain, and then you should be able to find the science that is related to that strain.
Okay. And then Anne said, what are prebiotics? I've heard that they are important to take in addition to probiotics.
So prebiotics is a food source for probiotics. So basically probiotics need something to eat in order for it to germinate. And prebiotics do that. So, but prebiotics are fiber essentially. So, and typically people are getting a lot of fiber in their diets. Canadian BC30, our particular ingredient, probiotic, does not need a particular fiber source in order to grow. We germinate, basically, we eat anything. I used to kind of always say in presentations, we're like Mikey, we'll eat everything. And then I realized that half of the people that I talk to are like 20 years younger than me. And so they don't even know the Mikey Life commercial, Life cereal. But I think everyone here will know that. So yeah, there's this new term that's going to be, it's not necessarily coming out, but I think it's going to start getting a little bit more marketing traction in the future. It's called symbiotic. I have a lot of customers who are wanting to sort of use that. And symbiotic just means it's a probiotic source. So yeah, did that answer your question, Ann?
Yeah, and you can get the prebiotics from vegetables as well as, and fruit as well as from grain. So the fiber can come from those sources. It doesn't necessarily have to be grain. I think a lot of times now we've always thought of fiber as being from different grains, but it's not necessarily the case. So, Katie, I have your GOPure pod slide. Do you want to talk about that?
Is it all messed up?
No.
Oh, did you fix it?
I fixed it.
Oh my gosh, you're brilliant, lady. So the other thing I was just going to talk about really quickly was water. And obviously, I think most of you guys are familiar with the GOPure pod, which is, I'm transitioning from one business to another right now. But so this is the GOPure pod, which is a portable water purifier. And it was sort of interesting as, COVID started coming out and everyone's talking about it. And there was all those things going around, like drink water every 15 minutes and it'll flush it out your system, which of course we all know hopefully that's not true. But But just to, obviously, water and hydration is incredibly important for your immune system. The purpose and our mission is sort of a GOPure really is to help change the way people drink water, because a lot of people are not, are afraid of their tap, and we want people to go back to the tap. But the way to do that is to give them some kind of vessel that's going to clean the tap water, make it safer to drink, make it taste better, because a lot of people don't like it. So that's what our GOPure pod is. It's a portable water filter that you just pop into any reusable bottle or any source for drinking water, and it'll take out numerous chemicals, toxins, microplastics, etc. But as you know, our bodies are 70% water, and the key for keeping ourselves hydrated, really to kind of keep our body boosting our immunity. It oxygenates our cells, and we have when our cells have enough oxygen, then we're reaching our full capacity. So it's just really, really important to be drinking water. The other thing too with GOPure, you can actually go to the EWG water guide, the environmental working group, and you can go to that website and put in your zip code, and it will tell you what kind of toxins are in your tap water. GOPure will take all of those toxins out. The other mission is reducing single-use plastic. So one pod is the equivalent of 2,000 plastic water bottles that are hopefully no longer going into the environment. 91% of water bottles are not recycled, and 5 trillion pieces of plastic are in our oceans. As I'm sure everyone's heard the quote that, by the year 2050, they say there could be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So we're trying to do our part to encourage people to not drink from plastic single-use bottles. 1 million water bottles are bought every minute, and 93% of them contain toxic microplastics in it. So even though you're buying bottled water, you're not even getting necessarily really great water from that. And then Earth Day is coming up April 22nd. And on our website, we'll be doing a 25% discount on all of our products. We have the portable water purifier for humans, and then we also actually have a pet version as well that kind of comes in a little cage that suction cups to the bowl. And there you have it.